The real American crisis is with debt. Every person is seemingly drowning in at least one type of debt. You look at mortgages, credit cards, and home equity line of credit, but it goes beyond the individual. Cities and states, and even corporations are in record levels of debt. There was a moment in time in which debt was beginning to be paid off. It was during the financial crisis. Just a slight drawback in debt levels nearly collapsed the entire global financial system. But perhaps we should take advice from the old saying, have your cake and eat it too. What could possibly go wrong? You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we are going to look at debt specifically in the United States, although this problem exists all over the world. So we'll get into the details right away. I showed you this article before, but wanted to use it as the introduction to lay the groundwork for the rest of this video, and quite frankly, the government shutdown spotlights a bigger issue. 78% of US workers live paycheck to paycheck. That is an incredibly high number. Essentially, everybody today is living paycheck to paycheck, and you think it's just the people who are considered poor, or maybe even lower middle class, or perhaps the middle class, but no. It doesn't matter how much money people make, because as soon as they get a raise, as soon as they get a bonus, they start to spend it. They immediately buy a bigger house, they get a bigger car, they go on vacation, they find a way to maximize the amount of money that they spend. They don't save it, they don't invest it properly. They are always living paycheck to paycheck. I know so many people who contribute to their retirement account when they're heavily in debt. Why in the world would you do that? In my opinion, that is a very big mistake. You're taking on all of this debt with interest on top of it in order to save for the future when the debt is a problem right now. Get that sorted out and then begin to save. Even O'Leary agrees with me on this one, and he is one individual that many people are taking advice from regularly. Okay, this is not financial advice, but I just wanted to tell you that even the mainstream so-called gurus are giving this type of information out now, so it makes a lot of sense. This is the actual study where it breaks it down further. We'll cover a few points. Living paycheck to paycheck is a way of life for majority of US workers, according to the new Career Builder survey. Think about this. When you have 78% of US workers living paycheck to make ends meet, you know that you have a crisis. That is the most appropriate word, and there is no other way to spin that. You can't say it's just a little bump, it's just some trouble, it's just a few individuals. Don't worry, nothing to see here. This proves the point. Nearly 1 in 10 workers is making $100,000 plus living paycheck to paycheck. Now you have to think to yourself, why in the world is somebody who's making 6 figures living paycheck to paycheck? It's because they bought that Maserati. It's because they bought that home that was too big for them. It's because they went on the most expensive vacations that they could possibly buy. They did so on credit. They used the equity in their home, and they have made a big mistake. More than 1 in 4 workers do not set aside savings each month. I'll cover more on that in a moment. Nearly 3 in 4 workers say that they are in debt today. More than half think that they will always be in debt. You have to look at that data and try to acknowledge the severity of the situation. More than half of minimum wage workers say that they have to work more than one job to make ends meet. This is not just for minimum wage workers, of course. We're seeing many people who take on many jobs. They have temporary work, and of course that skews the unemployment statistics and the jobs numbers. They can add jobs every single month. They're temporary. At the same time, people who take on 2 and 3 jobs, that looks like the amount of people that are employed is really fantastic. However, it's just covering up the scenario, because a lot of people are unemployed, and then you have other people who have 2 and 3 jobs. That really makes the statistics look better than they are. Most people don't want to acknowledge that, but it is a fact. Go Banking Rates has this survey that they did. They brought a few charts out to show you the data. I thought it was really good. It had connected with this information. I thought it would be good to tie it in. So let's get into it. The survey found that 58% of respondents had less than $1,000 saved. And check out this quote from TD Bank. It's always concerning when a large part of the population is seemingly living paycheck to paycheck, because when unexpected personal or financial hardships occur, it can be challenging to recover recover without adequate savings. Many people understood this in 2008, 2009, and then 2010. We saw the amount of bankruptcies. We saw people walking away from their homes. We saw a crisis that unfolded, and they have amnesia. They have the memory of a goldfish. We're in the same situation today, of course. This could be because of a financial crisis. It could be because something happened in your family. You needed the money. It could be a health reason. It could be some financial hardships. You lost your job, and so on. There are many reasons why this could occur, but regardless, you want to have something there to be able to get out of the bind when it does happen. Hey, this is life. Things happen. You always need to have something valuable that can be at least traded for that cash. Okay, there are many things. If you bought an asset, you could always sell the asset in order to get that cash that you need to pay for whatever it is that's an emergency in the event that happens. You hope it never happens. It's like having insurance. You buy it, but you hope to never have to use it. In the second paragraph, they basically talk about the fact that there was a slight increase in the amount of debt. We're looking at 58% from 57% in 2017. So they have some charts associated with this. How much money do you have saved in your savings account? You could see on the pie chart how it's broken down. Many people today have $0. All right, 32%. 26% have less than $1,000. So more than half of people have less than $1,000 saved. And $1,000 really isn't much. One of your appliances goes in your home, there you go. There's your $1,000. That's the way it works. People don't realize that, of course. They're hoping that everything stays fine and dandy, and hopefully it does, but that's just not realistic, all right? So I think that in terms of cash, it's hard to determine what is appropriate. You need to think about that for yourself. Many people say 3 months, other people say 6 months of salary you want saved. I don't know what the appropriate amount should be for you. Depends on your current situation, but I think that people should be living within their means, and that's the most important point. It's that you can't go out there and you get a raise in your job and you think to yourself, well, now I make an extra, let's just say $1,000 per month, therefore we can now buy that new car because I make $1,000 extra a month. That's not wise. If you were making $10,000 per month extra, you could take on that new $1,000 because there's $9,000 there as a buffer. You don't want to max out the amount that you do, but most people, that's the way they act, okay? They go to the absolute maximum, and that's just not wise. You want to be able to enjoy life in the way that you want to. That's a personal decision, but you should never be spending into debt in order to finance that. It doesn't make sense. Now, do people have $1 million to buy a home at all times? Probably not. Having $1 million cash is not something that most people have. But do you want to put down a reasonable amount on that mortgage for the down payment that you're about to get into? Yes, you want to have that sum put down in there. You want some strong equity, and you want to be able to pay that down as soon as you possibly can to get out of debt. The interest accumulates. People think that that $1 million mortgage is $1 million, but at the end of it, at that 25, 30 year period, you have to understand you're paying a lot more than that $1 million. The bigger the number, the more you're going to have to pay over the long term. A lot of people don't care because they simply look at it as a monthly payment, but it's not wise. It's not wise to pay that money regardless of how long it takes you to pay off. If it's 100 years, it still doesn't matter. It's accumulating and compounding over the years. Compound interest works in your favor in some cases, but also works against you in others. What obstacles are keeping you from saving more money each month? Number one thing, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. 31% of people are saying that. Number two was I have a low salary, 23%. And the third is I have a high cost of living. So many people experience all of this actually, but this is the way that it goes. And the fourth one there is I have too much debt. All right, so we've got a problem saving more money because they're living paycheck to paycheck. But why are they living paycheck to paycheck? Well, their salary is too low and their high cost of living. Okay, so that all compounds. And then if you add debt on top of that, you're having interest on this accumulating every single month, and people struggle month after month after month. It's a vicious cycle that people find themselves in. So what do they do? Today, what's happening? It's happening in Canada, the US, everywhere in fact, where you're seeing individuals taking the equity out of their home to pay off that debt. And that works in an environment where housing always appreciates. appreciates. If the housing prices always appreciate year after year after year after year, that can work. You can do that. You'll never have the home paid off, but you can use the equity in order to pay off the debt, but it's always going to come back to haunt you eventually. Don't forget to watch part 2 of this video. I get into so much more detail. Click the link in the description and I'll see you over there.